Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So another presentation of the flow of things, the flow to liberation. This is actually one part of a sutta which describes also the flow to ignorance, and how ignorance fills up, and liberation also fills up. It reminds us just of how the potentials there are, and how we are like, the Citta is rather like a vessel, or sometimes even a mouth that can be filled with either poison or nourishment. And this is a kind of that reminder just how both this, what's called the sweetness, the danger, and the escape. Just how that mouth wants to taste something nice. Danger if it not wisely attended to. And the liberation when it is wisely attended to. Sweetness, the danger, and the escape. Astada, Dhanawa, and Nisarana, the Pali terms. But today, just look at this one. And the sense of there's something, again, with these progressive teachings. It's not just some flash in the pan miracle that happens, or there could be miracles, but there's something quite steady and step by step, which is the whole process of the Buddha's teaching. Is step by step in the right direction. I say that true knowledge and liberation have a nutriment. This is the Anguttara Nikaya Book of the Tens, number 61. True knowledge and liberation have a nutriment, they're not without nutriment. And what is the nutriment for true knowledge and liberation? The 7 factors of enlightenment. 7 factors of enlightenment have a nutriment. What is the nutriment for the 7 factors of enlightenment? The 4 establishments of mindfulness. And what is the nutriment for the 4 establishments of mindfulness? 3 kinds of good conduct. What is the nutriment for the 3 kinds of good conduct? Restraint of the sense faculties. What is the nutriment for the restraint of the sense faculties? Mindfulness and clear comprehension. And what is the nutriment for mindfulness and clear comprehension? Careful attention. And what is the nutriment for careful attention? Faith. And what is the nutriment for faith? Hearing the good Dhamma. And what is the nutriment for hearing the good Dhamma? Associating with good persons. Just as when it is raining and the rain pours down in thick droplets on a mountain top, the water flows down along the slope and fills the clefts, gullies and creeks. These becoming full fill up the pools. These becoming full fill up the lakes. These becoming full fill up the streams. These becoming full fill up the rivers. And these becoming full fill up the great ocean. Thus there's nutriment for the great ocean, and in this way it becomes full. So too, associating with good persons, becoming full, fills up hearing the good Dhamma, and so forth. To the 7 factors of enlightenment, becoming full, fill up true knowledge and liberation. Thus there is nutriment for true knowledge and liberation, and in this way they become full. And obviously the converse, we don't associate with good persons, we don't hear the good Dhamma. Don't hear the good Dhamma, there's no arising of that faith, that sense of, oh, there's a possibility of something deeper, fuller, more meaningful, true, balanced. Yeah, there's a possibility. If there isn't that possibility, isn't constantly reminded of it, then one's attention becomes superficial, just scattering over the details of this and that, and this and that, and this and that, never deepening into careful attention, like what's really important here in all this, what's really moving you, what's touching you, yeah. How's this entering your heart? And if we don't do that, then isn't that ability to, if you don't enter the heart, no ability to, oh, this is having that effect, that does this. Oh, this is called mindfulness. One's able to sustain a frame of reference, and that's that. Superficial attention has no reference point, apart from how much things cost or what they look like or what else somebody else is doing. They don't refer to the heart. Mindfulness takes you into that place where right view can be established. This is a consequence of that. And that possibility to have that kind of attention that both firms up but also receives and listens in. This is sati sampajana. You notice an impact. Pause on that. How's this affecting me? Contemplate it. So this, without that, there's no encouragement to restrain the sense faculties. We don't. Mindfulness actually puts a filter on it. So, wait a minute, what's happening? There has to be some way of filtering, otherwise we're just flooded in the deluge. We don't actually get it. You know? And remembering sense faculties will include, in fact, dominated by the mind. You know, so the mind reminds us, tells us, remembers, says this and that, could be this and that. It's the most potent sense faculty because it supervises the other ones and it selects which one it's going to give attention to, and that's going to drive itself into your heart. What one gives attention to repeatedly, that becomes the main focus for what's happening in your citta. So just this sense, restraint, a bit of discrimination. Don't just gobble, be discerning. This is really, again, it's so important because this is not a concept that has any traction on it in the daily world. Restraint is just bad news. There's more interesting, stimulating, live life to the full. But actually, we don't contain anything. We're just a leak. Just life just pours through us. There's no gleaning of knowledge, understanding, direction. We're just like a feather in the wind, blown around. The Buddha, one of his images, it says, if you re-establish this sati, even in terms of body, then it's like things don't get in. He says it's like, you throw a rock against a heavy wooden door, the door doesn't bang open. But if the door's lightweight, it just flies open all the time. If you've thrown a ball of string at it. So the Citta has a door, and does one have any say over when that opens or not? What it opens to? Or is it just whatever? Wham, wham, wham. A person who has no door is just a feather in the wind. There's plenty of wind blowing. So with that sati, if that is established, then it's misconduct, or inappropriate, or useless, not necessarily evil, just futile. Like a fly kicking its legs, still stuck in a jar of honey. It's wondering why it's drowning, it's kicking its legs. So you shouldn't have gone to the honey pot in the first place. So misconduct, both verbal, physical, also mental. It means the mental inclinations, with the heart inclinations. So if we continue to foster thoughts associated with ill will, jealousy, craving, worry, anxiety, then these are all, that's all going straight into the heart, isn't it? Living this unpleasant brew of dissatisfaction. So restraining, and most important, restrain where the mind goes. So this is to do with the hindrances. Potentials for ill will and craving, worry and restlessness and loss of confidence, doubt, feeling no faith in oneself, no path, no way out, just depression, which is a chief weapon of Mara, is doubt. You just, no point. But in terms of the liberating process, the Buddha talks about mindfulness in different contexts. Well, first of all, mindfulness which establishes proper conduct. And how, based upon that sense of moderating, not just speech, action, but also moderating where the mind's going, moderating the tendency to drift off into places where the hindrances take over, then these four establishments are settled. So first of all, mindfulness is something that's kind of ongoing to the various flows of what comes in, sense contact, thoughts, feelings, something we can aspire to keep going all the day, reflecting, contemplating. And then you get mindfulness, the four establishments, which are much more prescribed meditation. Hey, this is now we're really making this, putting aside other things in order to really settle into this. So it's no longer mindfulness kind of running along with what happens, it's mindfulness determining what's happening. It becomes more proactive. So in this respect, the Buddha talked about the four establishments: kaya, body; vedana, feeling; citta, heart, mind, dhammas, phenomena that arise from the heart, mind. And we see these like four legs of a table. When they're all placed down together, you've got a very firm template that you place on as you're sitting, walking, standing, reclining. You know, they all fit together. The way they fit together, it's rather like, say this meditation hall, we have somebody established the walls, the floor. It also has space in it. It also contains warmth, and it has light. So you see all four, they're all contained within the basic form of this hall. So in this way, the mindfulness of body would be like the walls. So if you stay within that, if they aren't there, then the rest of it's just going to be really difficult. The space is going to be invaded by whatever, heat's going to flow and come and go depending on the weather. The light will just change with the sunlight, but here we can define the lights, use light, and sustain it, contained, not dissipated. And this containing quality is attributed primarily to mindfulness of body, which the Buddha likens it to ramming a stake into the ground and tethering all the senses to that stake so they don't run around. The restraining quality is both restraining, it sets a boundary. It also is collecting, because the body itself is a living creature, it's the life force, and if that life force continually is gathered within a certain boundary, the life force amplifies and is steadied and purified. And this is how it provides food for the heart. So if we look into these, one says external, if we're walking around, we contain our experience within this domain of the body. Now how do we do this walking? So, standing, clearly you have to have your eyes open when you're walking, so you're aware of what's going on, you can see things, but you're like holding this body like a boat moving through water. So that's the quality of mindfulness. It's both firm, but it's also receptive. Say, okay, you can notice, see things, hear things, touch things, and whatever, but then holding the presence, your centre, is in the sense of being embodied. And these motifs are always presented very much like the whole body. There's not a foot, it's not your foot walking, the whole body is walking. It's not your head walking, it's the whole thing. And so actually this sense of the wholeness very much affects what we experience. Now, for example, if you're sort of focusing on a particular point in your foot when you're walking, or a particular point in your body when you're breathing, the kind of attention very much picks up particular discrete sensations that are peculiar to that part of the body. And maybe that, it could be useful. At times it can be useful. But then your attention goes to particular circumstantial details associated with the physicality of the body. Now, if your attention doesn't do that, maintains awareness of the whole form, sensations kind of become more background, and what you're aware of primarily is things like balance, flow, speed, continuity, cohesiveness. So whether you're you're not aware of your feet, or you're just aware of your head, or you get that sense of the whole thing as a unit becomes much more available and receives that whole impression. So a very simple image for walking meditation is, imagine you're walking with a basket on your head, a large basket on your head, empty, so it's not heavy. It just keeps you upright, and it keeps your sense of balance, and you're centered, but you know where you're going. And then the whole thing moving along. And then what happens? Well, to sustain that awareness of the whole thing, you can't jump out into a particular visual object. You can see things, basically you can get the sense, yeah, I can see things, but not focusing on anything. It's like seeing without looking. Because you're aware, you're receptive. Rather than, what's that, what's that, what's that? You're just receptive, sight, sounds. This gives you the possibility of discriminating. I can see walls, trees, people. Yeah. No, you need to give any more attention to that. I can see enough. So we get this light awareness of the sense realm. But then what becomes more aware is the sense of the body present, whether it's high energy, low energy, whether it's cramped, stiff, flexible. We really get the sense of the animated experience of the body, not just physical sensations but qualities that we could call internal. I feel tense. Really, shoulders feel locked. They look the same, but they actually felt. So we come into the feeling experience. In terms of what's really helpful, because clearly a lot of feeling, the second foundation, second establishment, comes from just things pinging, cool weather, touch hits the body, and of course that goes on, but it's not really deeply relevant. It's relevant at the moment, but then it's gone again. What's most relevant is the internal feeling of the body, where the body feels at ease, steady, stable, comfortable, balanced. Why is that? Because that sets up the template for one's mental disposition. If you're feeling tight, tense, you can't really experience qualities such as goodwill. You can want to, you can wish you could, you can try, but you don't get an involuntary natural flush. And the sense of when the internal body is steadied, as we've heard before, the heart is steadied, and these qualities arise with no further volition. Ease. You can't say, hurry up and get easeful. It's important you learn how to relax, so relax. Come on, hurry up and relax. That's not going to do it, is it? So you can't do this as an act of the will, but it doesn't mean you're powerless. It means you set up the whole body as a unit, and sustaining awareness of that and not messing with it or going out or distracting oneself. It does it itself. It comes into harmony itself. And this is the nature of the internal body. Just as the external body, if you cut it, it will start healing. It will start sending what it takes to heal that cut. You don't have to tell it to do it. Obviously you can keep it clean and you can put bandage on it, but basically the healing, the body knows what to do and it does it. Similarly, the internal body, if you stop pressurizing it, distorting it, compressing it, and agitating, it knows how to heal itself, and it comes to a sense of steadied. It's a living system. And just recognizing that means a lot of the willpower is seen as having very limited use. Certainly has some use, it's kind of like, come on, let's get up, let's get on with it. Put that down. No, let's put it down now. Yeah, I know, but put it down now. Pick this up. You can deal with the mind with that, but you can't put willpower onto a body. It just seizes up. But this is what we do. You drive it. Daily abuse. You drive it, throw some coffee into it, throw it in a car, about the other, rush to work, and never really do this proper nourishment of the internal body. It doesn't need much. It just needs to stop being messed up, and it will give it time. It will heal itself. This is part of the realization experience. So important to really get a sense of the personal willpower and how relevant that is, when it's relevant and when it's not relevant. It takes you so far, then you've got to change your vehicle. There's a kind of effort there to deliberately stop and take time and walk and just keep going with it. And it takes faith to enter that which we don't know. Faith takes you beyond willpower. And every time one begins to get a sense of this, how suddenly, through walking, sitting, various phenomena rise and burst, and then what was all that about? It just moves through. But this process can be more finely tuned, the feelings that arise in the internal body, external body, internal body, steadying, and then how this affects the citta. Where it gets very tricky, of course, is how powerful feeling is the powerful mover. And what happens when something is felt, there's a stimulation, contact. No contact, no feeling. So to feel something is to experience some degree of negative or positive stimulation. There's no choice in that. It can be very positive, it can be subtle. So the Buddha even said, when one attains the right view, that's accompanied by a feeling. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I can see clearly. Just that shift. So what happens? Energy shifts, doesn't it? It was stuck and it releases. It was whirling around and it stops. It was, and then it releases energy. That's called a feeling. And it also pushes, when that energy builds up, pleasant feeling pushes, unpleasant feeling pushes. And as it comes through the sense domain, it pushes the citta. So then you get these what are called sankharas, which is the activations, volitional programs. Something, do that. Whether you act upon it physically or conceptually or even just in terms of inclination, one is moved by the feeling. Citta is moved, shifted. And with mindfulness, you know how much of it is useful, all totally understandable. How much of it is actually useful, and how much of it is going nowhere useful. And the power of mindfulness, by that process of noticing or tending to how feeling touches the citta or affects the citta, okay, that's that one. There's a firmness, that's a feeling. There's receptivity, feels like this. There's a firmness, that's a feeling. And because feeling is an energy, it changes. It's not a thing, it's an energy, isn't it? It's a movement. So if there's that firmness, receptivity to, but firmness around what's felt, a feeling can arise, and instead of with mindfulness it restrains, so the volitional quality is not picked up. So normally the feeling stimulates, there's a volitional push. Could it be that the feeling could stimulate displeasure, but there could be no volitional push? And this is definitely, with training, this is possible. One can hear disagreeable things, awful things, frightening things, and we don't get that panic, urgency, resentment, these shocks running through the system. And this is absolutely, in my opinion, absolutely necessary. What is the point of just constantly saturating yourself in anguish over the world in general, of which you have every right to feel anguish? But to what extent is that going to support anything skillful? We notice it, we're certainly sensitive to it. We're not oblivious, but just that mindfulness that this is a feeling, the volition, what volition is helpful. Yeah, maybe just to maintain equanimity. Or maybe it's to say, yes, goodwill is necessary to heal the ill will. I'll cultivate that. And then the dhammas, because these volitional qualities are those which stimulate dhammas, such as ill will or goodwill, release or holding on. So some say. And that's all, this is how these four work together. Now if there isn't the restraint, then that volitional push cannot be contained. Can it? That volitional push, no restraint, it's just we're going to speak, act, do something. And an average person, a well-intended person, will probably learn, okay, just don't think about that, or get over it, or it's not my problem, or, well, the world's like this, or I think he'll have some psychological way of restraining it. Yeah. And this is how people manage. We develop certain psychological restrainers. Sometimes we just basically seal off. We don't even want to know anymore. We kind of close down because we can't bear it. It's displeasure. Or pleasure. We have psychologies to hold it and sustain it. We get very obsessive and programmed to find our comforts and pleasures, and again it involves a certain degree of screening off. Yeah? The psychologies close the mind. They provide defense against the uncomfortable. They provide corridors towards the pleasant, but they're not open. And that's the psychological management. But mindfulness is not psychological. It affects the psychology, but then we're actually using embodiment as a restraint and awareness as a restraint. So it's the body says, okay, you can feel that running right into my belly when I hear that news. Or it really stirs around my chest. I can really feel it pulsing and throbbing. Or that thing I've seen, really feel my energies just rush up. Okay. Don't go into the area that's inflamed. Bring your awareness to your whole body, soles of your feet, your back, your shoulders, back of your head, top, crown, fingertips, the whole thing. And then that energy as it rushes meets that and is contained and dissolves. Because the proper capacity of the body has been properly healed and opened. If the body is internally compressed or broken, it can't do this. Something hits us and we just get that, oh no, kind of flush or gripping or tension or stirring or constriction. Because the body isn't ready. So to get the body to be open and complete, then these signals of distress or pleasure can run through it, but the body absorbs it and discharges it. So it's receptive, it's not blinkered, it's not unaware, but the energy of the body, as it's properly open through these whole holistic practices, acts as something that absorbs, like a shock absorber, and the energy is held carefully and then dwindles. Okay. Now that volitional push has gone, now that feeling of being scrambled has gone, okay, now I can wisely review from a balanced place what's appropriate now to do, or to say, or to think, or to wish for. Any action could be just sending forth goodwill. It could be, so you've got the whole range of the verbal, the physical, and even the emotional to effect a sense of mature response. It may sound ineffective, but you see how much of the world is just based upon reaction and reaction and reaction and reaction and reaction. Panic, vengeance, scramble, deny, lie, divert. Never mind about this, watch the football. Divert. Buy one of these if you're feeling unhappy. Get one of these. Divert, distract, revenge, blame, curse, revile, create enemies. Just react, react, react. The escalation of that. So yeah, of course. And when you're in a world now, you can receive news from every fragment of rock on the planet, can give you its tune, its song. How much do you want to take in of that? And isn't filtering necessary? And you react to all of it. You're going to be, So do you set up reactivity as the mode of response? Reactivity with a feeling eventually of, oh, it's all hopeless, what I'm going to do, oh, who cares anyway? The dead end? Or he's sensing, oh, this is really how it is, how let me not be reactive, let me be one of those good persons it talks about in the Sutta, who people associate with and get some understanding from. Maybe that would be some way I could contribute. And that's what works, that's how it happens, because you stick with good people, you hear some good things, you get some good modelling, and this is the way the tide turns. And we feel what's felt as a feeling. It's not, it's not kind of belittling it. It's not just a feeling. No, feeling is pretty important. And yet, mindfulness is more important, because that supervises it. And okay, you can feel that, but where it starts hitting those do it buttons, that's where you put that power, restraint. And you're doing that with your body, because unlike the psychologies, the body is a living, animate creature. Psychologies are abstract ideas. So you're referring to this living quality, the energy of the whole body, which we all have. It's warmth, vitality, that which enables us to move around. It's also that when we're sitting, you can feel the warmth, the pulsing, the heartbeats, the breath flows. It's all alive. It's extremely sensitive, jumps at a moment's impact. Now that energy, if it's properly cultivated and smoothed and trained with mindfulness, acts like an accumulator. It gathers. Energy is not being leaked out, not being thrown out in terms of spools of useless thought or scrambles of reactive emotions. Energy is contained, collected. It becomes an amplifier. And it amplifies a simple message: steady, healthy, peaceful, stable, nourishing. You don't have to do anything. It feeds you. It's a given. It's your gift. It's always fed you. And if you look after it clearly, properly, its food will go to the fullest benefit. And this will be to feed the heart. Because everything that we feel and contact is going to touch that citta, that's its nature. And a lot of it that touches it causes it to leak. And asava, something impacts, a signal impacts, a fear signal, a pressure signal, a compulsion shoots into it like an arrow, and its energy rushes out. Asava, inflow, outflow. So it can be pretty ragged. And bruised. So instead of turning the citta towards the thinking mind or our memories and psychologies and wishes and desires and fears and worries, we turn it towards the body, healing, steadying. In this way, it fills up. It doesn't leak. It fills up. Fills up. The mindfulness fills up the ability to explore. How is this? How is that? Which dhammas go which way? This amplifies one's energy. It's no longer being squandered. When it's no longer squandered, the effect is rapturous. Suddenly, what may be an emotional sense becomes embodied. You get a real, like a physical uplift. You feel spring in your step. This steadies everything. These are how these enlightenment factors proceed from the filling up of the four establishments when they're held carefully, steadily, repeatedly, with faith, with encouragement, and through associating with good people who are doing the same. So this is our opportunity. We are associating with good people who are doing the same. We are hearing the good Dhamma. Our faith is arisen. Our restraint is something we're cultivating. Let's use every opportunity we have to keep on track with that, which is for our benefit and for the welfare of others.